Before we start this video, do like and subscribe to our channel and not miss on any updates.
Hello my dear students. First of all, hearty congratulations on completing your CA foundation and welcome you guys to CA Intermediate. So friends, this is CA Shiva Teja here in front of you guys to discuss one brilliant subject, and I am sure we know which subject is that, and one subject which you have not learnt in foundation, but you are going to start learning that topic in CA Intermediate, and when you go to CA Final, you are going to learn even more extensive in this particular area. And at the same time, once you qualify as a chartered accountant, this is one such area where there is a high scope of expertise and practice which is required, and chartered accountant has got tremendous opportunities with regard to this. That's none other than taxation, my dear friends. So my dear students, I am here to talk with you guys with respect to income tax, a very brilliant topic which really makes a lot of sense and something really important at CA Inter level and also at CA Final level. At CA Inter level, taxation subject is for 100 marks consisting of both direct tax and indirect tax, that is your income tax as well as GST. But when you go to CA Final level, there is one separate paper of direct taxes for 100 marks. And there is one separate paper of indirect taxes again for 100 marks. That shows the importance of this topic known as taxation, which is very much fundamental, and we being chartered accountants and we being CA students, it is important that we have a great level of knowledge on this brilliant topic called taxation. So friends, why the delay? Let's begin our journey with a brilliant topic of income tax first. My dear students, before we get into what is income tax, first let us understand what is tax all about. We all know that. Let's take a small example first. In order to run a family, we know that father or mother, somebody is working in the family and earning some income to the family so as to ensure that the needs and the necessities of the family are met. In the same way, when the country is being run by the government requires some basic source of revenue to run the system, be it infrastructure and be it any kind of capital developments, or be it one major expenditure what government has got is with respect to defense. It is important that we protect our country, and we have got such a strong army base in India. Now in order to run all this army base, run the country, run the economy, run the government requires some revenue, and this tax is nothing but a basic source of revenue to the government to meet their expenditures. So what did I just say, my dear students? Tax is a basic source of revenue to the government in order to meet the expenditures. Now it is also important to be noted that this tax is a compulsory fee that is levied by the government. When I say levied, that means it is imposed by the government. So for example, if government is telling Mr. Shiva Teja, you please pay income tax, I cannot tell, no, I'm not interested, let's see next year. I don't have an option to say that, because this tax is a compulsory fee which I have to pay. I cannot say I will not pay. I am responsible to pay. So when something is imposed by the government, it is the fundamental duty of the citizen to abide the laws and to follow the rules and regulations set by the government or the country in which he is staying. And it is important that he has to follow the system. He cannot say, I will not follow the system, I will not pay tax. He cannot say that. It is his duty to pay the tax. And if he is not paying the tax, then government will again levy something called interest, penalty, more consequences will come into picture, which we will talk during the course of our discussion. But in general, what is tax, my dear friends? Tax is a compulsory fee charged by the government, and tax is a basic source of revenue to the government to run the system and to meet the expenditures such as government schools, government hospitals, infrastructure development, defense. All these expenditures are met by the government through the basic source of revenue received by the government, that is nothing but tax. Now that we understood what is tax, let's also understand what are the types of taxes, my dear friends. Now let me tell you very clearly here, my dear students, listen very clearly here. That is, there are two types of taxes known as direct tax and indirect tax. Now what is the meaning of this word called direct tax and indirect tax? Students sometimes very comfortably just tell a standard statement, that is direct tax is levied directly, indirect tax is levied indirectly. This is a crazy statement, guys. Don't write these kind of answers at CA examination. We are dealing with Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. It's a professional examination what you are writing, so don't write whatever language you want to write. Clear, my dear students? Come on now. Let me explain what is the meaning of this word called direct tax and indirect tax. First, let us understand what is direct tax. Listen very clearly, guys. Direct tax is a tax where impact and incidence. Come on, what did I just say? Direct tax is a tax where impact and incidence is on same person. I repeat, my dear friends, direct tax is a tax where impact and incidence is on same person. Now what does impact mean? Impact means who is liable to pay. Impact means who is liable to pay. Incidence means who actually pays. So direct tax is a tax where the person who is liable to pay and the person who actually pays, both are one and the same. For example, my dear students, if Shiva Teja has earned income, who is liable to pay income tax is Shiva Teja only, and who will pay the income tax is Shiva Teja only. That means from my own pocket I will pay that tax to the government, because this income tax is a direct tax. So direct tax is a tax where impact and incidence is on same person. Impact means who is liable to pay, incidence means who actually pays. So the person who is liable to pay and the person who actually pays, both are one and the same when we talk about income tax. That is nothing but direct tax. So what is direct tax, my dear friends? Come on. Direct tax is a tax where impact and incidence is on same person. The person who is liable to pay and the person who actually paid, both are one and the same. That is known as direct tax. Now what is indirect tax? Let's look at what is indirect tax, guys. Example we'll see after 2 minutes. Come on. Indirect tax is a tax where impact and incidence is on different person. Come on, what did I just say? Indirect tax is a tax where impact and incidence is on different person. That means the person who is liable to pay and the person who actually pays, both are not the same in case of indirect tax. Now let me give a classic example of indirect tax, that is nothing but GST, which stands for Goods and Services Tax. Let's take a small example, friends, to understand this better. When we go to a restaurant to have some food, maybe lunch or dinner or breakfast, whatever it is, now restaurant at the time of giving a bill to the customer, along with the food bill, they will also charge GST to the customer. If the restaurant is a registered person in GST, they will charge GST also to the customer. What is the limit for GST? We'll talk in GST separately. But restaurant owner will collect GST from customer. But let me tell you one point, who is actually liable to pay GST is the restaurant owner, but he will collect from customer. So the who is liable to pay is restaurant owner, but actually paid by customer. One more example, guys. When we go to a movie to watch one movie, prior to 2017, there was some tax called entertainment tax. But in 2017, GST has come, which has replaced majority of indirect tax laws. So when we look at a scenario where when we go to a theater to watch one movie, theater owner will also collect GST from the customer, nothing but the audience who have come to watch the movie. You're getting my point, my dear friends? Who is liable to pay GST is the theater owner, but it is actually paid by customer. That is why this is known as indirect tax. So direct tax is a tax where impact and incidence is on same person. Indirect tax is a tax where impact and incidence is on different person. That is the reason why we always say an interesting statement. That is, in indirect taxes, there is a concept of shifting of tax burden. What is that word? Shifting of tax burden. in our example, restaurant owner shifted the GST burden to the customer. In the same way, theater owner shifted GST burden to the customer. Ultimate burden in case of indirect tax laws will always fall on the final consumer. But this idea of shifting of tax burden will work only in case of indirect tax laws. But when we talk about direct tax, it is a tax where impact and incidence is on same person. So person who is liable to pay, person who actually pays are one and the same in case of direct tax. But in indirect tax is a tax where impact and incidence is on different person. So never ever tell a statement direct tax is directly levied, indirect tax is indirectly levied. Don't use that statements at all. So what is the language we are going to use? Direct tax is the tax where impact and incidence. Direct tax is the tax where impact and incidence is on same person. Whereas indirect tax is a tax where impact and incidence is on different person. Very interesting language. I am sure till this point we are everybody clear, my dear students. Very good, sir. Now listen to the next point. Listen very clearly here. Sir, let us say Shiva Teja went to one cloth store to buy one shirt. Now the shopkeeper told, sir, shirt is 1000 rupees, but apart from 1000, we'll also charge 18% GST. How much the shopkeeper told you will charge? 18% GST. Imagine a case like this. Reliance Industries owner Mukesh Ambani, he also went to the same store. He also wanted to buy the same shirt which Shiva Teja wants to buy. Now what do you think shopkeeper will tell? 1000 rupees shirt price. Will he tell you are Mukesh Ambani? For you GST is not 18%. For you GST is 80%. Will he tell that? Obviously answer is no. When the GST rate is 18% for Shiva Teja, GST rate is same for Mukesh Ambani also. So that means what I am trying to say is that in case of indirect taxes, the tax remains the same irrespective of type of person. For example, in restaurant, if the GST rate is 5%, if a high class person goes, the GST rate is 5% only. If a middle class person goes, GST rate is 5% only. If a beggar goes, still the GST rate is 5% only. GST rate remains constant irrespective of the type of person, irrespective of capacity of the person. That is why we say that indirect taxes percentage remains constant irrespective of type of person. But when we talk about income tax, that is not the story. The tax rate paid by Shiva Teja and the tax rate paid by Mukesh Ambani is not one and the same. The fundamental reason being in India, direct taxes are progressive in nature, whereas indirect taxes are regressive in nature. When I say progressive in nature, progressive means higher the income, higher the tax. Lower the income, lower the tax. I repeat again, friends, what did I just say? Progressive in nature means higher the income, higher the tax. Lower the income, lower the tax. But whereas indirect taxes are regressive in nature, that is, whatever is your income, it doesn't matter, the tax rate remains the same. I gave an example of Shiva Teja and Mukesh Ambani, my dear friends. That is, in case of indirect taxes, classic example GST, the rate of GST remains the same irrespective of type of person. But whereas in direct taxes, the classic example is income tax, they are progressive in nature, higher the income, higher the tax, lower the income, lower the tax. So these are the two type of taxes that are existing in India right now. That is direct tax and indirect taxes. Direct taxes are those taxes where impact and incidence is on same person. Indirect taxes are those taxes where impact and incidence is on different person. Impact means who is liable to pay. Incidence means who actually pays. So my dear students, we have just understood what is tax, and we also understood the difference between direct tax and indirect tax. Before we go further into the subject, first, let's also understand the origin of this tax first. That is, we all know that India is a democratic country. Now, what is democracy? Now don't tell by the people, for the people, of the people. A standard statement. Now when I say democratic country, democracy is a case where we are ruled by our own elected representatives. That means the people who are ruling us in India right now, we all voted for them, because of which they are ruling us. We are ruled by our own elected representatives. Now for this democracy, my dear students, there are 5 pillars of democracy. Number 1, legislature. Number 2, executive government. Number 3, judiciary. Number 4, press. Number 5, comptroller and auditor general. Don't say controller, it is comptroller. Comptroller and auditor general. In short, we say C&AG. Now what is the first pillar, my dear friends? Legislature. Legislature is somebody who frames the laws. Who frames the laws? Number 2, executive government implements the laws. Number 3, judiciary, they interpret the laws. That's the reason why whenever there is an issue with interpretation, we go to court of law for interpretational issues and get it resolved. Whenever there is a question of law, we file a suit in the court of law. How do we file? What do we do? We'll talk in detail separately. So what is the first pillar, my dear friends? Legislature frames the laws. Executive government implement the laws. Judiciary interpret the laws. Number 4, press, nothing but they echo the public opinion. What do? Echo the public opinion. And the last one, comptroller and auditor general. Comptroller and auditor general, he is like a watchdog for public funds, who is responsible to ensure that whatever money government has collected from the public, that should go back to the public in the form of various facilities or any kind of development of the nation. So C&AG is a responsible kind of person who conducts audit of government funds. So what are the 5 pillars of democracy, friends? 5 pillars are legislature, executive government, judiciary, press, comptroller and auditor general. Legislature frames the laws. Executive government implements the laws. Judiciary interprets the laws. Press echoes the public opinion. Comptroller and auditor general, he is a watchdog for public funds. These are the 5 pillars of democracy. Now, my dear students, let's discuss one interesting point. We understood what kind of governance we have got in India right now, that is a democratic government, and for which these are the 5 pillars of democracy. Now, an interesting point, let me discuss with you. We all know that in India, all the laws, whichever law we are talking about, every law has got power from the supremacy law, that is nothing but Constitution of India. We know that Constitution is a kind of framework which has been designed for the purpose of imposing or levying or kind of introducing any laws in India. So any law in India has got power from the Constitution only to impose that into India. Now in Constitution, my dear friends, we don't find any section numbers, but we will find article numbers. In Constitution, there is one article number known as Article number 265. Article number 265 says, no tax shall be levied or collected. Levy means what? Impose. We know that language, right? Yes. So Article 265 of the Constitution says, no tax shall be levied or collected except by the authority of law. That means unless law gives power, no tax can be levied or no tax can be collected. You get in this language, my dear friends? So no tax can be levied, no tax can be collected unless law gives power. So Constitution in Article 265, they specify that no tax shall be levied or collected except by authority of the law. For this purpose, my dear friends, in Constitution only, in 7th schedule to Article 246, 7th schedule to Article 246 of the Constitution, 7th schedule to Article 246 of the Constitution, they have given 3 lists. So Constitution in 7th schedule to Article 246, they have given 3 lists, that is Union list, state list. The third one is concurrent list. Union list contains those matters on which exclusive power to levy is with central government. That means exclusive power to take decisions with respect to matters contained in union list is only with central government, nothing but parliament. But when I talk about state list contains those matters on which exclusive power to take decision with respect to that matters is with state government. Concurrent list contains those matters on which center and state together will collectively take the decision. Now you think and tell me guys, in which list do you think income tax is there? Friends, come on, it's time to understand that income tax is the tax which is there in the union list. Nothing but income tax is levied by central government. It's not levied by state government, my dear students. Income tax is levied by central government. Central government only will levy that income tax. They will only take that income tax. After that, some amount they'll share with the states. How much they will share, that is government decision making policy, which we are not concerned to understand how much they will share with the state. But we need to understand that who is levying the income tax is central government, who is collecting the income tax is central government. Now let me tell you, my dear friends, in union list there are some entry numbers. Entry number is something like a serial number. Entry number 82 of union list of 7th schedule to article 246 has given power to central government to levy and collect income tax. So income tax. So if government is telling, my dear Shiva Teja, please pay income tax. If I ask government, who gave you power to collect income tax? Government will tell entry number 82 of union list of 7th schedule to article 246 of the constitution has given power to us to levy and collect income tax. Now you might ask, sir, give some more examples of union list. Some more examples are something like customs duty. Customs duty is a duty levied on imports and exports. That is also there in union list only. Now if you have to understand one example for a state list, my dear friends, classic example I will give you is tax on alcoholic liquor for human consumption. So when we talk about alcoholic liquor for human consumption, my dear friends, the exclusive power to levy tax on alcoholic liquor for human consumption is with state government only. So like this, my dear friends, government has divided the matters in respect of which power is there only with central government, matters in respect of which power is there only with state government, and matters where center and state together will collectively take the decision. So constitution in 7th schedule to article 246, how many lists they have given, my dear friends? 3 lists they have given: union list, state list, concurrent list. Union list contains those matters on which power is there exclusively with central government. State list exclusively with state government. Concurrent list contains those matters on which decision is taken by center and state together. So income tax is in which list, my dear friends? Income tax is in union list. And that too, the entry number is entry number 82 of the union list has given power to central government to levy and collect income tax. So my dear students, in simple terms, if I ask you a question, who gave power to central government to collect income tax? What will be your answer, my dear students? The answer should clearly be entry number 82 of the union list of the 7th schedule to article 246 of the constitution has given power to the central government to impose and collect income tax. So constitution in 7th schedule to article 246, how many lists they have given, my dear friends? 3 lists are given: union list, state list, concurrent list. Union list contains those matters on which power is there exclusively with central government. State list exclusive with state government. Concurrent list both central and state government. Very good. So friends, what is tax? Tax is a compulsory fee charged by the government, and it is a basic source of revenue to the government to run the entire system of the government and to meet major expenditures such as infrastructure, education, healthcare, defense. To meet all these expenditures, they are collecting this tax. And what are the 2 types of taxes? Direct tax and indirect tax. Direct tax is a tax where impact and incidence is on same person. Indirect tax is the tax where impact and incidence is on different person. Next point, we also understood what are the 5 pillars of democracy. What are the 5 pillars, my dear friends? Come on. The 5 pillars are legislature, executive government, judiciary, press, comptroller and auditor general. Legislature frames the laws, executive government implements the laws, judiciary interprets the laws, press echoes the public opinion, C&AG watchdog for public funds. So these are the 5 pillars of democracy. So we are now done with 5 pillars of democracy. What is tax? What are the types of taxes? What are the 3 list of 7 scheduled to Article 246? And which entry number has given power to central government to levy and collect income tax? So now let's dive deep into the concepts of income tax, my dear friends, and let's understand income tax in detail, which is one of the critical part of your taxation paper where good chunk of marks keep coming in the exam. So let's spend some first very good time on understanding the basic concepts, then slowly we'll develop our scale of knowledge. So now, when I talk about this income tax, my dear friends, name only says income tax. That is nothing but a tax which is levied and imposed on the income. And as I some time back told you, in India, direct taxes are progressive in nature, indirect taxes are regressive in nature. Progressive means higher the income, higher the tax, lower the income, lower the tax. Whereas regressive means whatever is your income capacity, tax remains same. Now when I talk about this direct taxes which are progressive in nature, the classic example of direct tax is nothing but income tax. So higher the income tax, lower the income tax. Now first let us understand what is the structure of income tax in India. Now to understand income tax law, my dear friends, there are fundamentally 5 sources of income tax law. The 5 sources are: number 1, Income Tax Act 1961. Number 2, Income Tax Rules 1962. Number 3, Annual Finance Act. Number 4, Circulars and Notification. Number 5, Judicial Pronouncements. What is this? Each and every word we'll understand in detail. Don't worry, my dear friends. So what are 5 sources of income tax law? Income Tax Act 1961, Income Tax Rules 1962, Annual Finance Act, Circulars and Notification, Judicial Pronouncements. The first one. So what is the first one? Income Tax Act. Sir, for everything in India, there is always a loss. For example, to understand company law, there is Companies Act. To understand partnership law, there is Partnership Act. To understand LLP law, there is LLP Act. To understand the contract validity, there is a contract act known as Indian Contract Act. So for everything in India, there is a law. In the same way, for income tax also, we have got Income Tax Act 1961. So my question to you, when I say Income Tax Act 1961, do you think that before 1961, income tax was there in India or not there in India, my dear students? Come on, what do you think, guys? 101% answer is yes, it was there in India. Prior to Income Tax Act 1961, there was Income Tax Act 1922. Even before 1922 Act, there was some other act which was there into the picture. Income tax is not something which was designed or invented newly by Government of India. Even prior to the independence, when India was under British rule, British government has collected taxes from the public. That's the reason why we know that we would have watched one movie known as Lagan. In Lagan movie, Amir Khan and team plays one cricket match, and the people say that if you win the match, you are not required to pay any income tax. Remember that movie, guys? Exactly. So in the same context, my dear friends, this tax is not something which is originated by Government of India. It was there even before India became independent. That means it was there even during British rule also. So from Britishers, this concept of tax has been there, which was formalized and structured, and then 1922 Act was framed, and subsequently Income Tax Act 1961 has come into picture. And even today, we are still following Income Tax Act 1961. A new act may come in future. So friends, what is the first source of income tax? Income Tax Act 1961. Second, Income Tax Rules 1962. When I say income tax rules, my dear friends, not that everything is given by act only. For example, Income Tax Act says charge depreciation on the asset. But at what rate we have to charge depreciation is given by rules. And sometimes income tax says pay by so and so due date. Now what is the due date is given by rules. So lot of things in the act are silent which are subsequently given by rules. And these rules are administered by one department of Ministry of Finance, and that department is nothing but Central Board of Direct Taxes. CBDT is an authority which is under Ministry of Finance, which administers all these rules, circulars and notification. CBDT stands for Central Board of Direct Taxes. So friends, what is the first source? Income Tax Act 1961. Second one, Income Tax Rules 1962. Third one, Annual Finance Act. As name only speaks, Annual Finance Act. That means it comes every year annually. Now, how does this Finance Act come into picture every year? We all know that on first day of February every year, Union Finance Minister will present in the Parliament an interesting document known as Budget. Budget is a plan of expenditures and it's a plan of revenues which government is going to earn. And in the budget only, they also present all the tax proposals in the budget with respect to any change or any amendments, any increase in tax, reduce in tax, procedural changes, formal changes. All the changes are presented in the budget by the Union Finance Minister. And this budget is then approved by Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Once the budget is approved by Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, the budget will become finance bill. I repeat again, budget is approved by Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Once the budget is approved by Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, budget will become a finance bill. Now this finance bill is subsequently signed by the President. Once President signs, not Prime Minister friends, President will sign. Once President signs the finance bill will become Finance Act. That is why we always say whatever is there in the budget need not be there in finance bill because Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha may not approve. Next possibility, whatever is there in finance bill may not be there in Finance Act because President might not have approved some points. You're getting what I'm saying, guys? And we know what is Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, right? Lok Sabha is the lower house of parliament. Rajya Sabha is upper house. Lok Sabha members of parliament are elected, whereas Rajya Sabha members are nominated. Exactly. So how does Annual Finance Act come into picture, my dear friends? Budget is presented in the parliament. Budget is approved by Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Then the budget will become finance bill. Then the bill is signed by President. It becomes Finance Act, which comes every year once, where radical changes come every year with respect to income tax and also with respect to GST also. Not necessary that every time the number of changes which come is same. Sometimes more changes come, sometimes less changes come depending upon the scenarios prevailing in the country at that particular point of time. So what is the first source of income tax? Income Tax Act 1961. Number 2, Income Tax Rules 1962. Number 3, Annual Finance Act. Number 4, Circulars and Notification. This circulars and notifications are given by CBDT only, that is Central Board of Direct Taxes. Circulars are clarificatory in the nature and these circulars are binding on the income tax officers. Technically we call them as assessing officers. So it is binding on the assessing officers that circulars are clarificatory in nature. Whereas notification is to notify some rate or to notify some due date, they give notifications. So the circulars and notifications are given by CBDT only. Getting my point? So what are source of income tax law? Income Tax Act 1961, Income Tax Rules 1962, Annual Finance Act, next circulars and notification. The last one, judicial pronouncements. Judicial pronouncement stands for rulings, pronouncements given by High Court or Supreme Court. For example, my dear friends, let us say income tax officer is telling taxable. Shiva Teja is not happy with what officer is telling. I will go to the higher authority called Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. Commissioner of Income Tax Appeal also told it is taxable. Still Shiva Teja is not happy. I will go to next higher authority, that is known as Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. I am telling this part more for knowledge. I will go to next authority known as Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. And I am not happy with the ruling given by Income Tax Appellate Tribunal also. Then I will go to High Court. If I am not happy with High Court, I can go to Supreme Court also. High Court, Supreme Court are judiciary in nature, and we know that Supreme Court is the apex body in India. Whatever rulings are given by them, it is full and final. But the point to be noted is that a person can approach High Court or Supreme Court only when there is a question of law. So with respect to interpretational issues in the law, and if there is a question of law, we can go to High Court or Supreme Court. If there is no question of law, only a question of fact, we can go only to tribunal, but we can't go to High Court or Supreme Court. High Court, Supreme Court, we can go only if there is a question of law. And a ruling given by Supreme Court is applicable to whole of India, entire country, that ruling will apply. But if a ruling is given by a particular High Court, that ruling is valid only in that particular state. It is not mandatory that other state High Court also should follow that ruling. For example, if on a particular issue, Kerala High Court told taxable, it's not necessary that
Bombay High Court
also should tell it is taxable.
Bombay High Court
May tell it is not taxable. Or Delhi High Court may next again tell it is taxable. And income tax assessees, that means taxable persons in income tax, need not follow the rule. In Maharashtra, need not follow the ruling of Kerala High Court. Any ruling given by the High Court is valid only in that particular state. But if a ruling is given by Supreme Court, it is valid for the entire country. So my dear students, to summarize this whole part, what are the 5 sources of income tax law? Income Tax Act 1961, Income Tax Rules 1962, Annual Finance Act, Circulars and Notifications, last one, Judicial Pronouncements. These are the 5 sources of income tax law. So if a person wants to understand income tax, he has to refer to these 5 sources. Income Tax Act 1961, then Income Tax Rules 1962, Annual Finance Act, Circulars and Notification, Judicial Pronouncements. So these are the 5 sources of income tax law. Now my dear friends, let me explain to you an interesting point. That is, this Income Tax Act, what we have been trying to understand, that which came way back in 1961, which is a part of our syllabus now. This income tax is applicable to whole of India, including Jammu and Kashmir, because there are some laws in India which don't apply to Jammu and Kashmir. But you have to understand one point very clearly, that this income tax is applicable to entire India, including Jammu and Kashmir. But now what is the meaning of this word India? This word India has been defined in the law. Fundamentally, the reason being, there is a possibility that a person has not earned income on the land, but he has earned income in the airspace, or he has not earned income in the airspace, but he has earned income in the waters around the land. So for this particular purpose, they have defined what is India, where they specified that India covers territory, territorial waters, seabed and subsoil underlying such water, continental shelf or exclusive economic zone, and airspace about territory and territorial waters. Let's understand what is India first. Come on. So it is important to know what is India, because income tax applies to entire India, including Jammu and Kashmir. And this word India is defined by section 225A of Income Tax Act 1961. When I say 225A, we will not read it as section 2 subsection 25A. In definition sections, we don't tell subsection, we'll tell it as clause. You might ask, sir, what is the difference between subsection and a clause? For example, guys, if I say 23 subsection 1, 23 subsection 2, subsections are those which are interrelated and they have some relation between both of them, and they are a part of the main section. But clauses, there is no relationship between one clause and other clause. Classic example, definition sections. In definitions, we don't have relation between one definition and other definition. That is the reason why in section 225A, we will never tell section 2, subsection 25A. We will say section 2, clause 25A, because clauses are independent of each other. But whereas subsections have got some correlation between them. Now, section 225A defines what is India. India covers territory. Territory is nothing but the landmass, territorial waters. Territorial waters is from the landmass, the place where water begins, something like Indian Ocean point or Bay of Bengal point of view. If you look at from the point where the landmass is done and water begins, up to 12 nautical miles. Up to what, my dear friends? 12 nautical miles, we call it as territorial waters. And 1 nautical mile is equal to 1.852 kilometers. 1.852 kilometers. What is kilometer? We know. Kilometer is a measure of distance when we go on the road, or when we go look at the distance which is being measured. But the distance in water is measured not based on kilometer, but it is measured based on nautical mile. So territorial waters is up to 12 nautical miles. So if somebody is doing an activity not on the land, but is doing in territorial waters, still pay income tax, my dear friend, because India covers territorial waters also. So India covers territory, territorial waters, seabed and subsoil underlying such water. That means inside water there is a landmass at the bottom of the water also, that is called seabed, and subsoil underlying such water. So if somebody is doing some activity inside the water also, please pay the tax, because that is also a part of India. So India covers territory, territorial waters, seabed and subsoil underlying such water. Continental shelf or exclusive economic zone, name only says exclusive economic zone. So from baseline, the baseline means line where land is done and water begins, from the baseline up to 200 nautical miles. Up to what, my dear friends? Up to 200 nautical miles, we call it as territorial waters. And name only says exclusive economic zone, the fundamental reason being exclusively only one activity is covered there, that is extraction of mineral oil. That is the only activity which is exclusively covered there. So India covers territory, territorial waters, seabed and subsoil underlying such water, continental shelf or exclusive economic zone, and airspace. Airspace is also covered, my dear students. Airspace above territory and territorial waters. Airspace above exclusive economic zone is not covered, because exclusive economic zone only one activity is covered, extraction of mineral oil, which we don't do from airspace. You're getting my point, everybody? Airspace above territory and territorial waters. So this airspace is also a part of India. So if somebody is doing an activity in the airspace and making money, he is also required to pay income tax. He cannot tell, I have not done on the land, I have done on the airspace, please pay the tax. I have done in water, please pay the tax. I have done inside the water, please pay the tax. Boss, income tax is very stringent, boss. So income tax applies to what? Whole of India. And which section defines India? Section 225A defines what is India, which clearly says India covers territory, territorial waters, seabed and subsoil underlying such waters, continental shelf, exclusive economic zone and airspace about territory and territorial waters. This is what is the definition of India given by section 225A. Now tell me guys, what are the 5 sources of income tax law? Income Tax Act 1961, Income Tax Rules 1962, Annual Finance Act, Circulars and Notification, Judicial Pronouncements. And this Income Tax 1961 is applicable to whole of India, including Jammu and Kashmir. In this context, let me tell you one interesting point, my dear friends. When I talk about income tax, we discussed that income tax is progressive in nature, that is higher the income, higher the tax, lower the income, lower the tax. Now let me explain to you one interesting point. That is, when we discuss about this income tax, the tax rates for the income, some rates of income tax are given in the Income Tax Act itself. Something like a rate of tax for capital gains, casual incomes, betting incomes. We'll talk in detail. some rates of income tax are given in the Income Tax Act itself, and some rates of income tax are given by the Finance Act, where they have given progressive rates of tax. Now, what are the rates of tax? We'll talk in detail very soon. But you need to keep in mind, if somebody is asking you where are the income tax rates given, some specific rates of tax are given in the Income Tax Act itself, and whereas other rates are given by the Finance Act, which comes every year. So for whatever rates are given in the Finance Act, we don't have any section number for that, but whatever rates are given in the Income Tax Act itself, for that we have got specific sections which we'll talk in detail.